The house stood tall and proud at the end of a quiet, tree-lined street. It was a Victorian beauty, with its intricate gingerbread trim and a wraparound porch that whispered stories of a bygone era. For my twin sister Lily and me, it was more than just a house. It was our world, our sanctuary. We spent countless hours exploring its nooks and crannies, playing hide-and-seek in its shadowy corners, and whispering secrets in its attic's hushed stillness. Little did we know, a different kind of secret lurked within its walls, a secret that would change our lives forever. The first sign that something was amiss was subtle. A book knocked off a shelf, a flickering light in the dead of night. We dismissed them as mere coincidence. Children's imaginations, our parents assured us, ran wild, but deep down, a seed of unease was sown. As the days turned into weeks, the strange occurrences became more frequent and more pronounced. Objects would vanish from their places, only to reappear in the most unlikely of spots. Doors creaked open and slammed shut on their own, their movements accompanied by the chilling sensation of unseen eyes upon us. Fear, like a venomous vine, began to snake its way into our hearts. Lily, always the braver of the two of us, tried to rationalize the events. She suggested drafts, faulty wiring, or even mischievous squirrels in the attic. But I felt it, a presence. Something unseen was watching, waiting. One evening, as we huddled in our room, a cold spot settled over my bed. The air grew heavy, making it hard to breathe. Lily reached for my hand, her touch a small comfort in the growing darkness. It was then that we heard it, a soft whisper, barely audible, but undeniably there, our names spoken in the stillness of the night. We found solace in routine, in the normalcy of school and the company of our friends. But even in the bright light of day, the memory of the whisper lingered, casting a long shadow over our once carefree lives. Then came the night of the record player. It was a stormy evening. Rain lashed against the windows, and the wind howled like a banshee. Lily and I were alone in the living room, our parents out for the evening. Suddenly, the old record player in the corner, silent for years, crackled to life. A haunting melody filled the air, its mournful tune sending shivers down our spines. We exchanged terrified glances, our blood running cold. The music seemed to wrap around us, pulling us into its eerie embrace. Then, as quickly as it had started, it stopped. Silence descended once more, heavier and more oppressive than before. We were not alone. We both knew it. Our initial disbelief had transformed into a chilling certainty. The house was haunted. One night our worst fears were confirmed. We were awakened by a sound, a soft thudding, coming from the hallway just outside our bedroom door. Fear propelled us out of bed. We crept closer to the door, our hearts pounding in our chests. Holding our breath, we slowly opened the door. The hallway was bathed in an unnatural darkness. And then we saw it. A tall, shadowy figure stood at the end of the hall. It was a chilling silhouette, devoid of features, yet radiating an aura of pure malice. For what felt like an eternity, we stood frozen, our gazes locked on the apparition. Then, with a swiftness that defied logic, it vanished into thin air. We were left trembling, our minds struggling to comprehend the horror we had just witnessed. Our older brother Tom dismissed our stories as childish fantasies. He scoffed at our fears, labeling us as overly imaginative, but even his skepticism crumbled in the face of the unexplainable. One night, as Tom lay asleep in his room, the door flew open with a deafening crash. He sat up in bed, his heart racing, just in time to see a shadowy figure dart across his room and vanish into the wall. The next morning, Tom, pale and shaken, recounted his experience. Gone was his usual swagger, replaced by a fear that mirrored our own. Our family, once a bastion of reason and logic, was now united in terror. The incident with Tom served as a chilling confirmation. We weren't imagining things. The haunting was real, and it was becoming increasingly bolder. Our home, once a safe haven, was now a prison of fear. Desperate for answers, we delved into the history of our old house. We scoured old newspapers, interviewed neighbors, and pored over dusty property records. Our search led us to a tragic discovery. The previous owner, a reclusive old man, had died within the house's walls. Rumors swirled about his life and death. Some whispered of a secret love, tragically lost. Others spoke of a darkness that had consumed him in his final years. Whatever the truth, it was clear that the old man's spirit remained trapped within the house that had been both his sanctuary and his tomb. We learned that he had been a musician, a pianist of considerable renown. The haunting melody we had heard on the old record player was one of his own compositions. The realization sent a shiver down my spine. We were living with the ghost of a man whose music seemed to echo the sorrow and regret that had clung to him in life. Armed with the knowledge of the old man's past, we attempted to reach out. We held seances in the dimly lit living room, our fingers trembling as we placed our hands on the Ouija board. We spoke his name into the darkness, our voices barely above a whisper, hoping for a sign, a message, anything to break through the veil that separated us. But our efforts were met with silence. The spirit, if it heard our pleas, offered no response. The Ouija board remained unresponsive, its planchette refusing to budge. The silence was deafening, more unsettling than any ghostly whisper. The lack of communication fueled our fear. We were living with an entity we couldn't understand, a presence that seemed to feed on our terror. Every creak of the floorboard, every rustle of leaves outside our window sent our hearts racing. As the haunting intensified, so too did our fear. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by a constant state of hypervigilance. Every shadow seemed to hold the promise of something sinister, every corner a potential hiding place for the unseen entity that shared our home. We began to see things in the periphery of our vision, fleeting glimpses of movement, dark shapes lurking at the edge of our awareness. Our once familiar home had transformed into a labyrinth of fear, its every corner a potential source of terror. The constant fear took its toll. We became withdrawn and anxious, our laughter silenced, our joy replaced by a gnawing dread. The haunting wasn't just confined to the walls of our home. It had seeped into our very beings, poisoning our thoughts and dreams. One evening, as Lily and I huddled together in the living room, our nerves frayed by the constant fear, our mother revealed a secret she had kept hidden for years. She too had experienced the haunting. She described seeing the shadowy figure, hearing the whispers, feeling the icy touch of the unseen. Her confession, far from reassuring us, only deepened our terror. If our own mother, a woman of unwavering strength and pragmatism, was haunted by the events in the house, what hope was there for us? Her revelation shattered the last vestiges of normalcy. We were not a family plagued by childish fears. We were a family united by a shared terror, bound together by the unseen force that held us captive in our own home. The haunting eventually subsided, fading away as mysteriously as it had begun. Life slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy, but the experience left an indelible mark on our souls. We never forgot the terror, the feeling of utter helplessness in the face of the unknown. The house on the quiet, tree-lined street remained our home, but it was no longer a sanctuary. It was a constant reminder of the darkness that lay hidden beneath the surface of the ordinary, a chilling testament to the unseen forces that shape our lives. The haunting had changed us. We emerged from the experience with a profound sense of the fragility of reality, a newfound respect for the mysteries that lie beyond our comprehension. We learned that some doors once opened can never be truly closed, and that some fears once awakened never truly sleep. We carry the memories of those haunted days with us, a constant reminder that the world is a far stranger and more wondrous place than we could ever imagine.